and they take a lot of what, these other conditioning coaches and strength coaches put down on paper as gospel. But when you do that, you inhibit your ability to be creative. And I think the thing for me was, I want to go and train somewhere where I can do it whatever the fuck I want, and someone's not going to look at me and think, man, that's wrong, Because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as wrong or right when it comes to the way you move. If you're moving, as far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing. There's better ways of doing it, and worse ways for longevity and the rest of it, but that's another subject altogether. But to be able to come into a space and move freely and get experimental and practice breathing techniques or do some dancing or mix your yoga with some weights or whatever it was, this was at the time, should be totally feasible and acceptable as well, And I think we've brought a lot of that into our gym. We're very strict on form and technique, quality of movement, but we're also very open to new and exciting ways of, manipulating and playing with tools and our bodies as well. And I feel that we're getting closer and closer to where we want to be, but we've still got a bit of a journey to go in that direction. It's been great because it's opened us up to a whole new world of information that I feel a lot of the health and fitness industry is very close off to because of the restrictions that they've put on themselves.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing too. Like what year are we in? Is this our third year here? Like 2.5 years? Third year? So in our third year, right, we've been writing programs for the gym for that long, and programs, for whatever, 10 years for other people and whatnot. And it's like every time you write a program for the next 6 weeks, you're like, this is the one. It's fucking perfect. Yeah. This is what we need, man. I got the right mobility stuff in there. This is going to help the guys fix those tight hips. This is going to be sick. Everyone's going to get super strong. Next year, we'll just kind of copy the same thing. And then you look at what you do. I look back now at the years before, and it just continues to evolve. It's never the same. Maybe we follow a theme within our programming for a few months, but then we go to a new workshop, or a new guy like Alan comes into the business, or we meet someone influential, and it's like, fuck, or we read a book, whatever it is, it continually evolves. And that's the thing, it must always continually evolve. There is no perfect system. And I think that's a little bit of our thing going against the mainstream fitness, is that a lot of mainstream fitness claims to have the system. There's a lot of gyms not gyms, but businesses out there that are built on, this is the way. Even the commercial gym, that has apparently the freedom to do whatever you want. Everyone's doing the same shit that they've been doing since the 1980s. The pec deck and the fucking lat flies and all those exercises hasn't evolved at all. It's the same stuff Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote about in the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, which is great, but it's like, it's a slice, and there's such a big pie out there, so,
so
it's getting bigger.
So when you talk about having a form or having a way, or having a formula and they deliver it in that kind of way, we have one here, fight, lift, move. So we're trying to corner it into 3 pillars like any other gym is. Can you talk a little bit more about, whether, how that structures our training here, basically?
Yeah. Actually, I'd like T to start on this one. I think you coined the 3 terms.
Fight, lift, move comes from a system that we've been discussing, experimenting with for a long time now, that we've named Primal Theatre. And I sat down with one of my mum's lecturers. She's a paleontologist and I forgot what they're called, people that study humans. Anthropologists, sorry. Yeah. And I was speaking to her about what the fundamental actions of humans were that allowed them to become the apex predator on the planet before all of our technological advances. Obviously, the environment was a lot more hostile and a much tougher environment that we're living in now, or different, I should say.
Think about botany, 1950s.
But there would have been a whole bunch of struggles back then, without the medical system that we have and weaponry and all that kind of stuff. So what were those actions that we took that allowed us to become what we are today? And we boiled it down to the the actions of combatives or fighting. So whether that was with an animal or with another human. Locomotion, so moving from one place to another. Humans were constantly travelling to chase food and relocate for weather and all kinds of different things, and then shifting objects, so picking something up and putting it somewhere else. So it could be, for instance, if you go hunting, you locomote to your prey, you fight it, and then you shift it back to where you need to go to eat it. And these were the fundamental actions of humans that allowed us to become the apex predator on the planet. And they're actions that we don't integrate with a lot anymore. And if we do, they're all strictly regimented, and it's all in sets and reps on flat floors and very safe environments, that kind of stuff. So that was the direction that we were heading in, and this is almost how far we've gotten in that direction. So we fight here, we lift, and we move. That generally sums up all the action that takes place in our gym at the moment.
And to add to that, like, if we looked at what it was in our own development that enabled us to kind of get to where we are with our training and thinking about what it is that we think is important for you guys, fighting is something we've always done, right? From Paul, doing boxing with your older brother in the backyard, and kung fu and Thai boxing, and me with jiu-jitsu, and dabbling in everything else. Fighting was something that is really important to us as a practice. For many reasons, the physical development, also the mental development, the idea of going into a situation in a controlled way in a gym. Sometimes you don't feel like it, sometimes you're tired, and then you have an opponent that's more energetic and more motivated, and they're kicking your ass and you have to respond. That kind of mental pressure, but then the feeling you have when you finish a training session like that and you're like, fuck, that was awesome. I just got pushed to a level I didn't know that I could go to. We thought that is important to incorporate into here. For people that are trying to get fit, that's a really primal kind of part of the brain that doesn't get tapped into a lot. If you go hang out on the treadmill, do some bench press, you're not really tapping into that side of things. But if you've ever come to a Fight Factory class, or even if you played some of the partner drills that we do here, we kind of try to replicate this same sort of stimulation without actually making you punch each other in the face so much. Unless you came to the last retreat, in which case you know what we're talking about. Lifting and moving. Lifting's important. Controlling an external object, whether it's a barbell or a kettlebell or a baby, or you're moving house, or you're picking stuff up to set up for a seminar, you have to be able to control things, and that's just a basic functional kind of activity. So that was always going to be a part of it. And then the movement side of things is everything else, from the cool stuff that we like to do, the handstands and the flexibility games and all this kind of stuff, through to just having body awareness and coordination and being able to control yourself and climb the bars, do stuff on the rings. Those three sort of categories allowed us to fit everything that we're passionate about into one format. So as much as it's everything, it ties into what we want it to be, but it also ties into what it is and what we think that, allows us to develop an individual such as yourself in the most well-rounded way. Because you can just fight, like the guys when I used to go to jiu-jitsu or when I used to go to the Thai boxing gym, but you pay a price if you just do that. You can just lift, be a power lifter, Olympic lifter, that kind of thing, but you're going to pay a price for that too, because you're going to develop one thing, but you're going to sacrifice all these other things. So the idea is to develop all of the things a little bit, and hopefully there's not too many gaps and you never become the master, but you become pretty proficient at all of it. And that gives you the freedom, right? Yeah,
and that's generally what humans are. We're generalists. We're very good at a number of different things. We've never been the fastest animal on the planet, the best swimmer on the planet, the best eyesight, but we're very good at a number of different tasks. And I think our bodies are designed like that. You look at how much articulation there is in a human, how we manipulate our bodies, and it reflects exactly that. And if you look at somebody who has optimal range of motion and fantastic biomechanics, then you can see humans do anything on the planet, you know, from like dancing to fighting to swimming to everything. And there's not many other animals in the world that can do that. But if you start limiting yourself to only one specialization, then you start to pay the price. Because we're so adaptive, your body will start to adapt to that particular specialization, and that's when you start getting problems. And that comes back again to how high we prioritize injury prevention in the gym and longevity, you know, of the human body, to be able to continue to do the things that you're doing now in 20 years' time and not have to pay for it, you know, diminished returns.
I thought it might be a good time to chuck up a question from Petros, pretty much coming off the back of what you've been talking about. How do I explain to an individual exactly what you're trying to achieve as a gym? Secondary question, and convincing them it's not CrossFit. Thanks, Petros, for the question. Is he here?
No, fuck.
Okay.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, we get asked this. We get asked this a lot, huh? And I guess the thing with CrossFit, one, our gym looks a little bit like a CrossFit gym, so that's always a tricky one. It was a CrossFit gym before we took it over, so it has a little bit of that feel. But CrossFit kind of got the jump on the small gym, the small group gym thing. And, you know, to be honest, it definitely allowed us to do what we've done, right? It opened up this market that didn't exist before that. It was like corny little PT studios and mega gyms. And so then CrossFit came about, and then all of a sudden these little garage and warehouse gyms started popping up. So, you know, we came in off the back of that, right? So for a lot of people, they think that a small boutique, grimy kind of gym is CrossFit. So they drive past, they're like, oh, it's CrossFit. To be clear, CrossFit is a brand. It is a franchise. It's an amazing business that it's created. You get trained to become a licensed coach, and then you can buy the franchise thing, or you buy the affiliation, pay a few grand every year, and you can call yourself a CrossFit gym. So in that regard, we're not that dissimilar. But I think in practice, in what we do, and this again, I know we have some people here that have, you know, long time backgrounds in CrossFit, and again, it's something that I respect. But I think that what we do that's quite different is we choose to prioritize quality over quantity. And that's not to say that all CrossFit gyms do the opposite, but largely being that CrossFit is a sport that has evolved around fitness, it chooses to prioritize work capacity or volume. So it's very interested in how much work you can do in a given time frame. And that's why it's produced such incredible athletes. For us, we're not so interested in the work capacity. Sometimes we are, if you come to the Fight Factory class on a Thursday, or if you come to a strength and movement class and do the conditioning side, we like the work capacity, but we like it as part of the pie, not the pie itself. So for us, it's more about the quality of the movement. And I guess for me, when I have to answer that question, that's usually the really short spiel that I give.
Yeah.
You got anything to add?
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing with CrossFit is that it started off differently to what it is now. So in the original journal, CrossFit Journal, there's a really interesting excerpt from Coach Christopher Glassman.
Greg.
Yeah, Greg Glassman, and he said something. It was something like, try different activities every day, and if you're the person who's the worst at those activities out of the people you're with, you get the most out of them because you've worked the hardest, which I think is fantastic. But because their business model now depends on having a box, and the games revolve around, you know, the equipment comes into it and all this other stuff, and the skill sets from Olympic lifting to gymnastics and then energy system development, these are like Olympic level sports just on their own. So to go out and try different sports is not necessarily going to make you better at Olympic lifting, gymnastics and energy system development. So it's boxed itself in and become a specialist sport, even though it originally started as a way of becoming very good generalist, and it was designed for fire brigade, police,